security. Security is these days de facto standard. There's nothing like, oh, I worry about the features now, worry about security later. That is not. When you have a startup, the security is a must, because once you lose the customer trust, it is very hard to win back.
Do you want to get started with the open source identity and access management platform, but don't know from where to start? Do you want to switch from a commercial IAM platform to an open source IAM platform? Do you want to set up an IAM solution for your startup company that is pocket friendly? Do you want to know which will be the best open source platform for your organization? If your answers to these questions are yes, then you have landed on the correct platform, because in this webinar, you will be given a complete guide to open source IAM solutions. Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on the power of embracing open source identity and access management platforms. The guest speaker of today's webinar is Senthil Palaniappan, the CEO and founder of Sennovate. So a few days back, my team and I were gathering frequently asked questions about open source platforms, and we thought, who could be a better person than Senthil, who has around 25 years of industry experience and also is an expert in identity and access management, to answer these questions for you. So here we have come up with this webinar to answer your questions on open source platforms.
Hello, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good evening, and it's been an amazing day here, and I'm just glad to meet with you after a long time and talk about some few important things.
There's a lot of excitement going on in the open source world with new products that are competing with commercial products with similar features. So Senthil, what are your thoughts on these open source platforms that are available in the market?
Like you talked about, like open source, let's back up a little bit on the open source. So open source, if you look at it on and off, it's been making a big buzz on various areas. One of the things you probably look at in the early 2000s, we talked about open source Linux operating systems and open source databases at the time, and open source ERPs till a certain extent. What is an open source, right? So open source is basically, like commercially available softwares that's become very expensive. Then people really care about the community and then try to make a difference. They kind of build a similar or software and or similar capacity and then donate to the public and then make sure that it's been staying open source forever and continue to evolve with support. But any open source without the industry support is very hard to survive, because anything, even open source, it has to have that means to survive. That same is applicable for our open source whatever IAM or security products. So as long as the product is good, it definitely is going to get this community support. On top of it, they will get the commercial and vendor support, and of course the end customer support that is going to keep helping that products to grow. So in that sense, we have a couple of open source products. In IAM side is like most predominantly Glue and Keycloak. In this today's session, we will talk about mostly on Glue, and then maybe in some other discussion we'll take up this comparison, stuff like that. And so open source, it is pretty mature, and the good news is it also provides all the features that all the commercially available products provide. The same we can achieve through open source IAM products like Glue as well.
With rising number of startups emerging across various sectors, there's a dire need and a constant pressure on these startup companies to set up a cybersecurity infrastructure. So what would be your recommendation to these startup companies who wants to take cybersecurity seriously and wants to set up an identity and access management solutions for their organization?
From the perspective of the startups and the open source, talk about the open source products available, right? So today the Glue is mostly an on-prem. Now I think they are trying to get onto this they're hosting a platform on the cloud. So we are also trying similar fashion. But think about it. It's a software is a software, whether it's a vendor provided or open source. It's a software. It has to be managed properly, maintained properly, and continue to be patched if it is an on-prem product. So in that sense, startups. It's depending on the need of a startup, right? Startup is like they are not betting on the volume, but they are betting on quick to market. So with the limited users, of course, the cloud product like Okta, Adaptive from CyberArk, and other products, Jump Cloud, all great products available these days. IAM is becoming more and more commoditized, and then the speed is always there. You can just get started within minutes. So that is the key here for the startup. But at the same time, startup is looking to grow without much return, in a sense that they want to prove, grow in the market space first. The typical example is something like maybe us under likes of Facebook. So you grow in the market first, then worry about this revenue. Then it's very hard to grow without revenue when you use commercially available IAM products. So you start as, even though like say CIAM, consumer identity management products from Okta and all, like first 50,000 users, like a comparable price. And after that, when you grow quicker, it is, even the revenue may not be growing that fast, but the cost is. Those kind of startup companies should look for open source products like Glue. We are taking advantage of our says quick spin-off products and free trials, stuff like that. So what we try to do is like build a platform that's quickly and readily available for them. So the point is like, the startups, that they're like, they wanted to build based on number of users, then of course the cost has to be limited. So they have to invest a little bit of time to kind of stabilize the product. And also another challenge with the products for the startups. So startups, I would like this, like, they are coming on, startup is coming up with an idea which is completely new most of the time, and also they come up with the products, the user, the way of the way use this IAM, it could be completely different because their idea is innovation. So, and also they pivot multiple times to stabilize a startup. In that sense, every time you do this kind of things, it is very expensive when you go to the commercially available products, right? So always comes with the cost of implementation, other things. But if it is an open source, and still that can be heavily minimized, and a lot of it provides a lot more flexibility. For example, if you are coming up with something new, I don't want to get into the details of it, something new with Okta, which is a feature that is not available already, they wanted to add that feature, that they have to validate that with widely customer usage, right? And then they will consider further feature enhancement. But in a Glue like product, you have that is on your hand. If you think that is very important, you immediately put some resources into it and then build it and deliver it within no time without much construction. That is another biggest advantage of being for a startup. Like I said before, there's only two things, right? So it's going to cost, whether you're going to incur cost on a per user per month, or you will be incurring a service cost that's building this on-prem softwares and managing it. That is going to be there. But only in this, the advantage of the open source systems is like you don't incur the license cost, which is very big when it comes to come to any commercially off the shelf products. And having said that, this is open source gives a new opportunity for you guys to consider and then see that how this fits in your strategy and planning for the startups moving forward. To add one more point, I think about the security. Security is this is de facto standard. There's nothing like, oh, I worry about the features now, worry about security later. That is not. When you have a startup, the security is a must, because once you lose the customer trust, it is very hard to win back, or you never. So these days, this single sign-on or multi-factor authentication or proper password policy, or helping you the social logins features available. Those things are kind of de facto standard these days. Having said that, the major thing in front of you is like, not whether I need to have a security or not, but which security product which suits my vision, my strategy moving forward, being flexible, and that helps me to meet my end goal. That is the one consideration that in front of you more than anything else.
So Senthil, now that you have introduced us with Glue, this leads me to ask you that organizations initially have few users. But once they start growing and scaling up, they start adding users in millions. So, with all the knowledge and experience that you have working in the cybersecurity industry, what benefits do you think Glue offers over other commercial platforms? And also, can Glue handle users in millions?
So when we talk about Glue or any open source, always that's come to a question. Hey, look at if you have a vendor product like Oracle, so IBM or any other vendor, Ping Identity, ForgeRock, a lot of commercially available products that can be installed and managed, and they're fully vendor supported, and then you have a patch release after. Then what is the difference when it comes to open source like Glue, right? So the thing is, the only biggest advantage in front of you is the upfront cost, capital budgeting. The one is like when you buy those products, you have to predict the numbers, and then you have to buy licenses for those products. But the one when you look at the product like Glue, that is fully free. The community edition is same as the commercially available edition, right? So that means supported version. It's only the difference is like, the supported Glue version is supported by the vendors like us, or maybe the product who are the community, the Glue community, or then you can, it's a Java software. You can manage yourself. You can have your internal staff and then have them manage it by yourself, as long as they have the right expertise. So the service is kind of same whether it's a vendor or this one, but the ongoing demand for the support, ongoing demand for the license, ongoing demand for increase of license cost, that is where I think the biggest challenge is. Being a startup, you have to predict some number of users and then pay license. And if you hit the bar, the revenue, sometimes the startup want to grow as fast as possible, but the revenue becomes secondary. So they don't really grow the revenue as much as the number of users. Then it has become a huge bottleneck for you when you have commercially available software. They don't care whether you are a startup, you are growing, your revenue is not growing, all those stuff. They say number of users, pay me this much of money. That one you can avoid by going to the open source. So that is the biggest advantage. And also, I know a little bit about startup as well based on my discussions. And also, when the startup, when you work on this profit margin, it gives a big leverage on the valuation of the company as well because of the EBITDA, right? So you are showing you can show much reduction in cost, because at some point you are on a maintenance board. You don't need to have a support as much as you needed before. So you can always scale down your support model and scale down your cost, and absolutely no license cost per se, and that saves that it gives you flexibility to kind of increase your bottom line, versus it's not the case when you go with the cloud-based products or any off-the-shelf vendor products. That may not be the case. So always support cost is built on top of the license cost, which is unavoidable, right? You must purchase, otherwise you don't get much support or any access, and sometimes it is more serious than you think. So that is the biggest difference in my opinion, going with the open source as well as the commercially available off-the-shelf products.
When organizations are just starting out, they don't have the capital to invest in the security solutions that are scalable and robust. So, looking at this situation, Senthil, what would be your recommendation, and how would you consult these organizations so that they have best of both worlds, where they can set up the best IAM security solution without creating a hole in their pocket?
This is a great question, right? Startup don't have the what do you call, the capital budgeting, and then what kind of consideration they need to do in order to um, for when they think about this, right? So of course, it's a very broader question where the startup is not an IAM security startups, right? There's startups like they have a particular products or services in mind, and that's what a startup is, and then security is basically a part of their solution. So I cannot speak for the broader, but I can speak for the security part of it. So then when they don't have the capital budgeting, and then it's a lot of other options available. So like I said before, like if their number of users are limited, and then their solutions or solution is not based on the number of user volume, but like it is more like the usage or something similar to that, then I think the best bet is, without corporate capital budget, go with Okta or go with iAdaptive, go with some clouds. So many other products available. Like I said, it's commoditized already. So per user per month for per feature, that is the best thing. If you think that I'm going to be, hey, I'm not going that lot, but I'm only having like 10 users, 100 users, 1,000 users the max, I'm not going to use more than that. That is a different story. But if you are focusing on a consumer identity management, and then you are thinking of millions of users growing state to state, country to country, beyond globe, so beyond the boundaries, I would say. So then it's a different story altogether. All right. So at the time, without capital budgeting, how do you do it? So a lot of ways you can manage it, right? So I know that you probably think that a product like Glue, it's a on-prem products, you kind of install, configure, it's a huge capital expenditure. The answer is no. So the thing is, like, you there's no absolute zero license cost, so right there you don't have any capital expenditure. And the companies like us, that at least we Sennovate provide, been partner with Glue for a long time, we provide this lot of automation and standard deployments. So click of a button, within 5-10 minutes you have your Glue up and running, and then we support on configuration. All this thing we do on a cloud-based model. So basically, we do the subscription model for you. So it's the same as anything else. Of course, you can put it into your AWS or your GCA infrastructure, or Azure infrastructure. We put it on the off the right. You can get this all the feature right at the gate, and then you can keep using it. And rather, we help to integrate for a minimal fee on a monthly basis. So in that sense, we found a niche to automate and minimize our involvement, and also that helps you to consume it as much as you want, in a sense, and get all the support needs. So that way, like similar, you get the best of both worlds, right? Best of being in the cloud and having a subscription model, and also use the on-prem product mostly hosted on your favorite environments like AWS or GCI, Microsoft Azure or whatnot, right? Even digital cloud, wherever it is, we can deploy. Or even you're kind of worried about the infrastructure cost, we can deploy your on-prem virtualization. Maybe you have a VMware running on-prem or any other open source VM in there, then we should be able to deploy directly on you. We have the means to automate that as well. So that kind of help you to kind of being a true startup and focus on your business rather than worrying about your security needs.
Open source platforms have become a game changer when it comes to security innovations, and Glue is a perfect example for that. So how easy is it to integrate Glue to your existing infrastructure? And are there any bottlenecks that one might find when starting with Glue?
So the question is really this question. A lot of people ask about this question, right? How easy it is, right? That's a typical question, because people kind of used to these days a modern environments like Okta, CyberArk, Jump Cloud. Is extremely easy and user friendly. You go there, you just do it, and then it's not a surprising question. Hey, the on-prem, always people think, right? People have a legacy mindset or legacy experience, and then they completely come to know immediately, saying that, hey, this is really difficult for you. They went through a lot of scares, so they don't they don't, they always think that with the frame of mind. It's understandable. So how basically, if you year back, if you ask, it's extremely difficult. Like, so open source, what happened was, at the time people sometimes download and then try for months and months to install the software and stuff like that. But we put a lot of hard work last year and a half to automate most of the things, and so now we made it much easier for you. Like, get your glue environment in minutes. It's not months, weeks, it's a minutes. You get the glue environment. Then also it gives you the complete dashboard to play around. Then automation of migrating the users or creating the users, automation of building the security modules for your product, automation of customization if you have many specific needs, in a sense, right? Most of the things we have bells and whistles kind of used to customize it quickly. And so our job is to build automation around it. Of course, that is our service. The idea is that anything is a win-win value proposition that is to succeed. That is our formula. So we make it win by constantly investing in a glue platform and building a lot of automation. So it give you the near experience of the cloud. So on the get-go. That is what that we make you win. By that, I think, of course, it comes to the fee, right? That's where I think we win as well. So that is the whole idea of the whole thing. And so that way you don't worry about growing millions of users or having any specific feature needs that you need to implement. You are put in the queue or put in the line for commercially products to then add into the next feature. Everything is readily available. It is mostly our solution is startup friendly, and also this is available anywhere you want, right? So whether it's in AWS, or GCI, Azure, or your on-prem locations, we should be able to do it. On top of it, even you wanted to have an auto scaling features, whether it is based on Kubernetes or you are based on just a scaling based on just a CPU RAM kind of a thing. So basically, we understand your startup needs, and you can do it. Even we've been having talks with other startups. You've been already grown millions of users, like 3-4 million users, and now they started feeling the pinch from the commercially available cloud products they've been using, and now they are looking at Glue as an alternate to migrate from their platform to our platforms, right? So they're saving so much of money and hassle by doing that. So more importantly, it gives you the freedom. So one of the customers, they are like a global customer. They've been very successful in the US. They are expanding them to other countries like India, China, and other places. And think about it, like they wanted to grow as a volume, and those countries not going to pay as much as US, but at the same time, the volume that gives the kick, right? That gives the push. But that's the commercial they're using. I don't want to name the vendor names or customer name here, but commercially, the cloud product they're using, they came up with a big estimation bill, which kind of demotivates them to their plan of growing. The saddest part for any startup company is when the company is growing, they're scared about the growth because of the cost they're paying a vendor, which is very unfortunate. So now we are working with them to help to migrate, so that way their cost is a check. At the same time, they gives the complete freedom to grow beyond the boundaries. So that is our motto, and that's where we have been investing. The Glue is a great partner. We've been working closely with Glue and make this really possible. So any questions you guys have on this? Again, we are a vendor agnostic, and you depending on your needs, we suggest it doesn't matter what product you use. Still, we want you to be successful. The only way as a service provider we will be successful. So having said that, please reach out to us and then have a free consultation with one of our experts, and then just to brainstorm your needs and then take the right direction, right path to be successful. Wish you good luck, and thank you again for watching this.